And we're back with episode 2 of Demon Souls in Design. We're going to get right into 1-2. Archzone of the Demon Phalanx. Past the huge Boletarian Castle gates lies the cliff pathway, now a feeding ground for dragons, which leads to the inner ward where the knights live. So we already have an interesting thing here. The description of this level, the description of the level mentions feeding ground for dragons. So there's already a warning sign, a little bit of foreshadowing there. And that will be something important to talk about at the beginning of this level. And we can compare that to Dark Souls 1 as well, because Dark Souls 1 has a very similar level design trope here that they copied from Demon Souls, reused, you could say. So it's important we can discuss the differences here. And this is something we mentioned earlier with dragons and traps that they can have. This is more of a direct comparison to how Dark Souls 1 did. It's almost the exact same setup. We can see the differences here. And I would say that Demon Souls actually did this better. So, into the next level, 1-2 of Boletarian Palace. Now, this section here, this room here, nothing really too much to say about this. They have a few hoplites around. There's a few hidden items around here. This is just kind of a... Just this area right here, there's nothing too much going on. Like, these enemies aren't much of a threat. This area is more about just letting the player kind of get into the next level as I get hit repeatedly by everything. But yeah, as you can see, they don't do that much damage. But there's this here if you explore. Again, if you explore.
You yonder. Over here. It's me, Ostrava. Look at me. Again surrounded by evil warriors. Could you, perhaps, help me one last time? Clear out the soldiers at the far end of this passage, if it pleases you. The Lord's Path, just down yonder, has degenerated into a feeding ground for flying dragons. Have your wits about you.
Okay, so not only do you, if you explore, do you see Ostrava again, this character we met before, and also another chance to get a reward from helping him, but we're once again warned about dragons, and this time very specifically. He specifically says, Lord's Path, have your wits about you. Have your wits about you. So he's flat out saying, be careful, you might, something might happen. So it's but again, this is the important thing to note here. It's a very clear warning, but only to a player who's actually paying attention and exploring the game. So if you've done what I've done, and you have your wits about you, as Ostrava would say, now the first thing you're going to see is smoke on this pathway, all these bodies. And if you just look right over there, you'll see a dragon. And also notice, and oh my god, I'm going to adjust the volume a little bit. That dragon is loud. Actually, we'll just use the in-game UI. Look at that. Look at how fancy that is. Thank you, Demon Souls. So, look at how the level design's set up. If you look left, there's immediately a big mountain, so you can't really see anything. So there's no reason to really look over there. Also, that giant mountain face and that tower kind of leads your eyes forward, which naturally has you look right. So they wanted you to see this dragon. They set up everything in a way where you'll look in that direction. You even see the castle walls go out into the distance. Like, there's no real reason to look over here. Just immediate mountain, very close up, nothing there. Look right, and there's a big open sky. They wanted you to see it. And that's what this warning's about. So you come over here. If you walk over here, you'll see the dragon. And you can even see him come all the way over here. Now, if we compare this to Dark Souls 1, in Dark Souls 1... the only warning of to watch out for a dragon is the fact that the dragon appears at the start of the level, at the start of Undead Burg. That's it. There's, at the actual section, just like this, where there's a bridge with a bunch of burnt bodies. In Dark Souls 1, there's nothing explicitly warning you about that. And also, there's really nothing to... You can't really see the dragon coming. You basically just have to... The only way in Dark Souls 1 to really avoid that is to see the bodies and just kind of know what's going to happen and and just kind of guess the timing. I would say Demon Souls did a much better job of setting this up, setting up this trap, and executing it. Demon Souls sets it up so a player who's exploring and paying attention will notice it and not get hit by it. Dark Souls 1, I don't think quite did it just right. In Dark Souls 1, it feels a little gimmicky, a little forced. And I think that's because, now again, this is just my assumption, and I'm going to lower, that dragon's really loud, I apologize. Again, this is just my assumption, but I would say it's because in Dark Souls 1, I feel like they were trying to emulate this more than anything, where in this game, this was a level design concept they just kind of naturally had in mind and did it. Where in Dark Souls 1, I feel like they were trying to put it in there because they did it in Demon Souls. They wanted to reuse it. I don't know if it necessarily needed to be there. It just feels like it was executed much better in this game, for all things considered. So we've cleared out the upper level, but remember Ostrava, our friend Ostrava, needs our help, so let's find him. Now, there's a reason why I came all the way this way. You don't have to, but there's a reason why. And this is actually another way where Demon Souls level design has a lot more depth to it than it might first appear, and I'm going to show a reason why. Because there's multiple ways, in Demon Souls there's usually very many different ways to approach a level that can make it either much easier or harder depending on how the player wants to approach things. So if we come down here, first, break into this room, Archer. Now this Archer is not meant to be a threat. He's not. He's kind of more just it's a way to get the player's attention to bring them over here. Because there's our hidden merchant friend again. This Archer is actually designed to help players find this guy. Not actually there to kill you. Enemies can actually be used to help the player in a natural way. See, a lot of games might have had a message here or something telling the player to come over here, but again, that's very unnatural. It doesn't feel right. By having an archer who's going to shoot a projectile at you, which is going to get your attention, and then have you come over here and attack him, the player isn't even going to realize that this archer's job was to help them find this merchant. In fact, most players are going to feel good about themselves. They're going to feel, oh, I found this guy all by myself, which is good. That's what you want to do as a game designer. You want to lead people to the things you want them to find without them even realizing you led them to it. That's really good use of enemy placement.
Ah, we meet again. Fancy that. Hope you find something that suits you.
Alright, so his store upgrades each time you find him. So if you get here again, he has new stuff. I actually almost knew of everything. Let's see. I don't think there's anything we actually need, though. Nope, we're good on things.
It is the end of Great Boletaria as we know it. But hell, at least the demons don't send us to our deaths in battle.
He repeats that political commentary from the first level.
Hard times, eh? I'm sure you'll turn things around.
Alright, so we just noted the upgraded shop, but now we'll show how the level design gives savvy players ways to overcome certain challenges. So there's a pack of dogs here. Most players will usually encounter them from the front, which makes it much more difficult, obviously. But a player who learns the level can discover that, oh, if I come from over here, I can get the jump on them. If you can figure out how to get past the dragon, you're rewarded by making this section much easier than it normally would be. And I missed my attack, screwing up my own ambush that I had. Well, that's one way to do it. And I might have our first death. So yeah, don't do a push attack when you want to swing your sword. Well, we'll be fine. Well, that's how execution at the end of the day is always the most important aspect. Oh, okay. Well, despite my botched attempt, hopefully that showed off how the level design does reward you for being savvy. And I think there's one more dog. Yep. Well, we're talking about Demon Souls design, so let's use this moment to mention, the Demon Souls pathing is not as good as the other games. And actually, there's a lot of enemies in the game that have weird pathing issues that they fixed in a lot of them were fixed in Dark Souls 1, actually. That dog running into that wall, you don't see that very often in the future games. I would say that's mostly a situation there that is caused from this being FromSoftware's first really big 3D action game, like, they obviously make Kingsfield and Shadow Tower and many other games of the style, but they weren't quite as action-oriented, and that was probably something they still were learning as they went. And that's something they got better as with each game they made. The newer games, most notably Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3, have probably the best polish when it comes to being an actual action game. Demon's Souls still a little rough around the edges. Even Dark Souls 1 is, and Dark Souls 2. So we come all the way down here. And guy hidden behind a wall. To find a Strava. Here there's multiple archers. Cutting them through with our longsword. There we go. Oh, no, no, no. There's always more. Okay. So this is actually an interesting thing here that they're doing here. This is probably the first time in the game where they encounter a situation like this. They have a tunnel with low visibility with multiple ranged attackers, so you can never be certain when you've killed all of them. And as you walk through, you know, you're going to be seeing arrows come out of the darkness. So they're playing with darkness and light to make a normal enemy more dangerous than they normally would be. In Dark Souls 1, most people who have played that game probably know about Tomb of the Giants. So that's an idea they expand upon with each game, but it's in Demon's Souls as well, and it shows up in other levels too.
Thank you. That makes twice. Thanks to you, I can now forge ahead. This is a token of my gratitude. Please accept it.
So once again, we do something for Strava and he rewards us and gives us the best healing item in the game. So the reward's even better than it was last time. Last time we got an item that's mostly just a trinket. Nothing too helpful. So that's kind of being reinforcing the idea that Strava's on your side. You know, he's pretty much the only character in the game who just helps you out for helping him out. You know, like the merchant over here is friendly, but his dialogue where he says, you know, tough times, eh? But you'll be fine. He doesn't really care about you. You know, it's more of a you and the merchant and your character. Your relationship is more indifferent, not really allies. You and Strava start to, you know, as the game progresses, it's more of an actual alliance, friendships type role. And that's one of the few ones that's actually exists with your character and others in the game. So that's important. That's an important distinction. So now, if we continue, this is, oh, speaking of more graphical bugs, that's something that exists all the way up until Dark Souls Bloodborne, I think. It still happens. Again, rough around the edges. So this is where the level the first time in the game where they throw some serious stuff at you. They put you in a pretty precarious situation. And there's no checkpoint here. This is where they want the player to really buckle down. Now this area, this section, a lot of people struggle with this. And there's a reason why. You're forced into this situation because of the dragon. They throw ranged attackers and a stronger enemy right in front of you. But again, like most parts in the game, the best way to deal with this is patience. If you don't rush it, you can see I'm just taking it really slow. I'm just walking, waiting my time, taking my time, waiting my turn, I should say. And then you find out it's actually not as hard as it first appears. So even in a dangerous situation like that, the best solution most of the time is just take it slow, bait the enemies out, be patient. I know many people who found this part to be ridiculously difficult, but I think I showed right there that I didn't do anything fancy, I didn't do anything skillful, I just kind of played slow and patient. And that's kind of a big thing about Demon's Souls, more so than a lot of the other games, and we'll talk about that a lot as we get more difficult parts of the game. Oh, he's just going to heal right in front of me. Oh, or we'll mess up our parry. But you can just parry the enemy and kill them. So there are ways where you can kill enemies faster if you have the skill necessary, but usually you can just kind of be patient and defensive and win. Alright, so some players might immediately go on the boss, but if you're exploring, you're looking around, you'll find a locked door, I wonder what that is, and a passageway. And if you explore it, you get rewarded for it. So Demon's Souls has a very consistent theme in its old school game design where if you're constantly checking corners, you're constantly looking around the level, you get rewarded for it, it'll make the game much easier. The game wants you to really explore this world, really look around, Really be patient and the main thing is they want you to respect the world they've made. They don't want you just rushing through it. They want you to really respect what's going on. As I get shot by arrows repeatedly. Fantastic. Okay. They give you some really good items for doing this. And there we go. And this level is pretty much beaten, but here's the thing. And this is one of the few exceptions, but there are some levels like this in Demon Souls. There's no shortcut in this level. The only shortcut, quote-unquote, in this level is just simply mastering the level to where you can run through it. Like, figuring out how to get past the dragon quickly. There's no actual shortcut. There's no actual checkpoint. So if you die to Tower Knight, you have to do the whole level over again. So they specifically made this boss pretty punishing. But again, to keep in mind, this is a pretty short level. It's pretty much a straight shot. You can see the start of the level right here. In that first room, you can just kind of run through. So it's a straight shot. It's not a long level, though, so that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so, Tower Knight. And this is a boss we're going to talk about a lot, but let's watch the cutscene. So the cutscene even shows a bunch of archers prepared to attack you. So that's what we're going to deal with. So we haven't talked a lot about the combat yet of Demon Souls, but I think this is a good time to do so. So a big thing about the combat in Demon Souls is that it's got a very puzzle-like nature, similar to, like, say, Zelda. More so than a lot of the other games. I'd say Dark Souls 1 probably is the next closest to that regard, maybe, and also Dark Souls 2. But Demon Souls has the most amount of puzzle-based kind of combat. And let me explain what I mean by that. So, in this boss, in Phalanx, again, we'll talk a lot about Phalanx here too, both bosses aren't very large in, like, a skill department. There's not a lot of, it's not really focused that much on dodging or timing, more of just knowing what strategy to employ and then doing it. Think about, like, a Zelda boss where it has, like, you know, the classic Zelda boss of, like, the 3D games, like Ocarina of Time and whatnot, where a boss might have a very set pattern, and then with, like, a glowing weak spot that you're supposed to hit. It's very straightforward. It's not really skill-intensive. It's more about just figuring it out. Again, like a puzzle, figuring out the solution. Phalanx and Tower Knight are very similar to that in that, for example, in Phalanx, you know, there's no... You know, it's basically just divide and conquer, hit the enemies, maybe learn about the fire-based weakness, and that's it. The Tower Knight, kill the archers, simplify the fight, and then from there, hit his legs. And that's pretty much it. You're not really even supposed to dodge his attacks. You simply don't be near him when he does things. And this boss is also another thing to note, Iron Golem is in many ways a recreation of this fight. In the way that you knock him down and damage him when he's knocked down. I would say the main difference between this and Zelda, though, is that this does a much better job of immersing you in the experience because it doesn't simply have glowing weak spots. Players can kind of just naturally figure out that you should probably hit the legs. And the blue spurts, here's the big difference between the blue spurts and, say, a glowy spot you hit. The blue spurts only appear after you hit the weak spot and hit it enough times. So it's more of a confirmation, not telling you what to do. It's more about, hey, you did the right thing, good job, not, hey, hit this spot. It's not telling you what to do. It's simply rewarding you for doing it right. Which is it might sound like a small thing, but that's actually a big difference. Because it's not force-feeding the information to the player. The player still has to get that initial aha moment, which is important to a puzzle. They don't want to give it away. We knock him down, his head is his weak spot. Again, there's no indication that his head is weak spot, but most players would probably have enough common sense to deduce that after you knock down a big enemy like this. And yeah, he'll get back up, and from there you simply repeat the process. Again, nothing really skill-intensive about this. It's more of a puzzle. We keep hitting his legs. He's going to hop back. That's probably his most dangerous attack. But again, you can preemptively deal with it. He's going to do it again. Oh, alright. Already fell. And he'll probably be dead right here. Maybe not. Not sure. It's going to be close. Nope, I don't think we'll get him yet. But that's fine. Oh, we got hit by him getting up. But yeah, I think you get the idea. Again, it's mostly a puzzle fight. Now, there are some fights in this game, in Demon's Souls, that are more action-based, not quite a puzzle. And we'll talk about those when we get there. But even those fights usually have puzzle elements. But that's something we'll talk about a lot while we dissect the game. Because all of the Souls games do have puzzle elements, even in their bosses. I mean, most games do. I guess the way to put it is, in most games, when you're fighting an enemy, there's a certain balance of puzzle and action. The demon was destroyed. You shall attain the demon soul, and a power that is beyond human imagination. And now, we're not reviving because we're still in body form. We're still revived. Iron Demon Soul. Now, this is another thing we'll mention to discuss, this right here. A thick, perilous fog holds you back. Only those who have slain an archdemon may pass beyond this point. So, there's a lot of talk about linearity, non-linearity in the Souls games. So in Demon's Souls, this is basically the only progression block in the game. I have to beat another world before I can go to the last 2 levels of World 1. Now, if you look here, there's 5 worlds in the game. So that means World 2, Stonefang Tunnel, World 3, Tower of Latria, World 4, Shrine of Storms, and World 5, Valley of Defilement can all be played at any time, in any order, right after you beat the first level of the game. And the only progression block is that you can't go to the last 2 levels of Boletarian Palace until you do at least just one of those 4. So the game is very non-linear in that respect. More non-linear than most of the games, I would say. But another thing to keep in mind, though, is that while this is a really interesting system, it's really well done, it's not unique. A lot of people would say, like, oh wow, Demon's Souls was so unique that you can do any set of worlds any order you want. It's not, though. This is basically the Mega Man style of level progression. In Mega Man, usually when you beat all different levels, then it would funnel you to the last set. The fact that they want you to do the other levels before 1.3 and 1.4 is even kind of similar to that. So again, it's very based on the Mega Man style. And now we've saved Strava again. He's in the Nexus, so let's talk to Strava.
At its peak, Boletaria was a grand kingdom. The king, his knights, and his subjects were modest and plain, but also steadfast and compassionate. In the distant southern kingdom, Boletaria was known as paradise on earth. But look at what has become of us now. I refuse to believe that this is what Father wished for our great land.
So now we finally learn some real details about Strava. We know that he remembers he was around when things were good, so we can kind of get in a sense that all these terrible things that happened haven't been, it's fairly recent, right? Because Strava's a young guy, and he talks about how great things were before, so it has to be somewhat recent. And also, he refers to his father being responsible. So again, you can already kind of probably get the idea that his father is probably King Alan. You don't have to be too deduced. You can probably think most players could probably deduce that at this point.
Have you met the last surviving monumental? Those fools revived the old one on a whim. And now they've trapped us here in the Nexus in a desperate attempt to undo their mistake. It's all a travesty if you ask me.
Now, this is really important to the overall staging of the game's story and world, and it's something that a lot of people praise Dark Souls for, but again, it's from Demon's Souls. Everything we've been told so far has been we've been told that King Alan is responsible for everything that's happened. The Monumental tells us that. But like I mentioned before, the Monumental doesn't give us a specific reason why King Alan did that. She just said he was short-sighted. But he's saying the Monumentals are responsible. So we're getting very conflicting information, and there's not really any evidence to see who's right and who's wrong. At this point, it's kind of up to the player to decide, is the Monumental telling the truth, or is the Monumental hiding something? Is this guy telling the truth, or is he just, deluded, or is he just losing his mind? It's really kind of up to the player to decide that. Oh, and we got those large sharps on the side. Let's see if we can upgrade, but I think This upgrades with something else. No, it's Hardstone, which we do have. Alright, so now our longsword is +2. So I guess we could talk about the upgrade system right now, because we are going to be going to World 2. I'm not going to mince any words about this. The upgrade system in Demon's Souls kind of sucks. And it's one of the bigger flaws of this game, I would say. And it's something that they have, they did improve upon with each game after. The main problems with the upgrade system in this game is that it's not explained it's never really explained. It's very obscure in that some weapons upgrade with certain different amounts. Some weapons have different branching paths at different points. There's really no way to know if the weapon you want to use is going to upgrade in the way you need it to and at what time. So it's extremely easy, even for a very observant player, to not upgrade the weapon the way that would be beneficial to them. And it's very punishing in a way there's really no sense of fairness to it. There's no way where a player could learn, oh, you know, the short sword upgrades at +6, so I should know to go to +6, then transition it to something else. Like, there's just no way for a player to know that. I would say starting with Dark Souls 2 is when they really ironed out a lot of those problems, and in Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 it's good. Dark Souls 1 even has a lot of these issues as well, even though while Dark Souls 1 system is probably better as well, it still has some flaws, but they did improve upon it, which is good. And more Hardstone, which is good, because we need that for our longsword. Again, if you explore this beaten path, you get more items. Again, I don't even think I'll keep mentioning about that, but again, it's something to keep in mind. Constantly throughout this game, if you're exploring, going off weird areas, you'll be rewarded for it.
Hello there, souls. Souls. I trade fine goods for souls.
So this kind of reinforces the notion that souls is all that matters in this world now. Everyone wants souls. Souls is currency. Souls is your life.
Our little town. Well, it's a nice wee place. All those lizard-eyed townsfolk are busy tinkering with stone. And don't bother with old men like myself. Makes life rather easy for me. I can get away with anything. Thank you, Lord, for this golden opportunity.
So there's some ominous dialogue there. You get the idea that maybe this guy his life wasn't good for him before the Scourge, and maybe now he's actually happy that this cataclysm happened. Again, a little social commentary there, and he even thanks God for it. So again, a little social commentary there. So we're going to buy some Hardstone from him, because why not? Might as well, we have all these souls. We didn't level up after Tower Knight.
Have you heard about that sparkling lizard? He's not easy to catch, but he's got some fine stones, and I know where his nest is. Oh, I'm sorry. I can't give it away.
So he's actually...
It's a pleasure doing business with you.
actually referencing the gecko, well, lizard, I should say, that we just killed over here. So again, the game's constantly giving you hints if you look for it. And this is a developer message. Accidentally susceptible to pierce attacks. So, let's see here. We only have one pierce attack, the one-handed strong attack, and also spells, which we don't... Actually, we do have soul arrows. So we actually have two ways to exploit the enemy weakness coming up, which the developer warns you about if you look for it. So that's another thing about enemy weaknesses and damage types that we could mention, is that Demon's Souls, they're much more pronounced than the other games. In Demon's Souls, there's a lot of emphasis, a lot more emphasis on using the enemy's weakness against them. Like, let's do a regular R1 to this enemy. 14 damage. Now we do a thrusting, piercing attack, our strong attack, 95. Look at how much of a difference that makes. Difference is very pronounced. 14, 28. Yeah, it's consistently doing 14 damage. 95. So it's like, what, 8 times or 7 times more damage or something? Another thing to note, though, is backstabs typically ignore those defense multipliers that they have. But my regular light not light, but one-handed strong attack does more damage than a backstab. So that's how much of an effect it makes. So yeah, weaknesses are huge in this game. Heal up. And a big reason we came here now is because upgrade materials. World 2 is all about upgrade materials. Oh, I didn't read the message on the Archstone when we came here. My bad. I should have done that. We can do that after. So the strong combo is not a thrust into and thrust. The second attack is slashing, so it's better to do just a strong attack and another strong attack. So yeah, this is now the game teaching you about enemy weaknesses to certain elements. Or I should say damage types. Now this enemy actually is carrying a bag, so they specifically mark enemies that might have materials you want. So again, this is actually a really good way to use enemy design to make the game more immersive. Because normally if you're farming for drops in RPGs, quote-unquote farming, is a very unnatural concept. You just kill the same enemy over and over, and sometimes they give you what they want, sometimes they don't. The enemies with bags is more an immersive system. Like, you actually see that the enemy has those items that you want, so you go after him. It's a good idea. And that's something that's not in any of the other Souls games. I would have liked to see that idea carry on. It's only in this game, unfortunately. So we can ambush the ambush of these dogs. Or we'll miss. So these dogs, oh my goodness, always giving us problems. But in Demon Souls, it's always good to retreat. Alright, so, yeah. Wow. Oh my god. So yeah, dogs. That's something I could work on. But then again, in every Souls game, dogs are always a problem. So we'll bait him out. Or we won't. Okay, good. And again, we mentioned bad AI before. This is another instance where this one just stopped following us, even though we didn't go that far away. So yeah, it's another thing. Demon Souls, again, mentioned it before. Enemy AI and pathing could definitely be better. But I won't harp on that too much because, it was the first other time really doing a game of this style. So this is the first time we actually see and fight a fat official. He's in a really difficult location because one of the easy ways to deal with him is to backstab him, but he's right in a narrow passageway. So we gotta try to hit him through it. Now we can try to get his back. Like that. Because he's very tanky, he has a lot of life. But you can combo him from behind. And by killing him, you get his full Moongrass, which is really good. You get these upgrade materials, which are really good. So it's a good reward for killing him. And again, they're putting enemies in very precarious positions now, but if you know to use your thrust attacks, you can take care of them pretty easily. And now they really want you to try thrust attacks, because now we're in a very narrow location. If you do attack, slashing attacks tend to be horizontal swipes that will hit walls, where a thrusting attack won't. So they're really trying to get you to use a thrusting attack. They're really trying to teach you this lesson of the game. Again, the developer really wants you to learn these mechanics. As we miss an attack completely. And he has a combo. But here's another thing to keep in mind. As you probably noticed by this point, the enemies in Demon Souls don't actually hit very hard. Like, again, that enemy hit us, 3 times? And we still had quite a bit of life. We're only level 8, and we have 12 vitality. That's not a lot at all. In fact, we didn't even level up after killing Tower Knight. And we have, light armor set on. Armor is not a big deal. We'll talk about that later, but the point being is we're not really tanky. Just the enemies just don't hit that hard, at least so far. So the two-handed light attacks combo, as you can see. So the longsword, the different movesets all the way from one hand to two hand have a lot of differences. You have a thrust attack in one hand, a combo sequence in two hands, really good horizontal swipes in two-handed strong attack, light-handed R1s, a one-handed light attack, good speed, good range. So you have a lot of versatility. And this Phantom here is a developer Phantom. They're going to teach you to use the switch. It's not actually a player. Cutscene just showing you what the switch did. We want, again, the enemy with the bag. That's why we're killing him. Clear stone. No, we're not going to be using clear stone, but, you know, it's good to note it. So always go after the enemies with bags. Hard stone, that's good. They have no bags. So yeah, this is a way where the game is now encouraging players to upgrade their weapons. Because they made it very convenient to do so. And pretty easy to do so, honestly. These enemies don't really defend themselves much. And it's also, keep in mind, this is one of the very first levels you can do. It's an early level. So this is a way where the game is very clearly giving you the option to upgrade your weapons early on in the game. They're not forcing you to really earn the ability to upgrade your weapons. It's pretty easy to do. Alright, so now that we've got all those materials, we'll continue on with the level. We got a shortcut. The first shortcut of this level. This level is pretty involved. There's a lot of shortcuts. There's a lot of branching. And I shouldn't say branching, but intertwined pathways and such. And here we go to the second section of the level. And this world building is really good here. Like, you really feel that this place was actually used for mining and what should I say, excavating. Like, there's a lot of the sound effects, the world design. It's really good. It really feels lived in, if that makes any sense. And there's these fire geckos on the wall. Again, that's something where that's just that enemy's more of a warning. Like, hey, there's an enemy like this in the level, and if the player goes over there, they'll drop down. But now, to keep in mind here, there's just one of them here. This is, again, this enemy is not intended to kill you. It's to help you. It's a warning. It also leads you to this item, which is not a great item, but it's, you know, it's, again, it's something that might be come in handy. Again, that enemy was not intended to kill you. That enemy was a warning for a future trap, and also a way to help players find that treasure. So the game is constantly using enemies to actually help the player out if you're being observant. And what I mean by that is this right here. Now that the player saw how that one dropped down, they know that these guys will drop down. So if you go over here and be wary, you'll be fine. And you can lure these enemies out if you want. Now I know what that item is and I don't need it, so I don't really need to kill these enemies. But again, I just wanted to note how the trap works. And now we know. Again, that's really good use of enemy design and enemy placement, level design. Really well done. Right, so now we have these enemies that actually have weapons for once. But we can outrange them. Again, AI is not really their strong suit. It's more of an AI weakness here. These enemies on this elevated spot with long-range weapon could be a good threat, but they're a little too slow, they react too slow. Better AI and moveset would make that encounter better. Come in here. Enemy with a bag. And I missed completely. Let's take those items, if you don't mind. Alright. So now we can actually see down onto the level where we were before. So this is a good use of visual level design to let the player understand what's going on. They can see, okay, I'm above where I started. And if you just naturally come down here, you'll see this. And any player, even if you didn't explore down there before, which I didn't actually, I did not go in that building. Even if you didn't do that, it's pretty obvious to see what's going on here. Any player at this point in the game should be able to realize this is a shortcut. Awesome. All right, cool. Now if I die, I can probably use this elevator to get back to where I am right now. And also, if you're paying attention, secret item. Well, not really secret, but an extra item. Oh. Let's not fall. So, yep, and the player will see, yeah, this is a shortcut. I can see the ledge. So, again, really good level design. It all comes naturally to the player. And you'll meet a new character.
I haven't seen you around these parts. What does it matter? You need a blacksmith, show me some coin. If not, head straight for the door.
Alright, let's talk to him.
I'm busy. I'm not here to chit-chat. Holding a weapon strengthens it. alters its character. Walls are transmogrified sprites. Their presence blesses the weapon.
Alright, so he really wants to talk about upgrading weapons, so if you check him out. Alright, upgrade our weapon to +3 with the hardstone we got. Oh, so now we can upgrade out this on different things. So, about what we were talking about the upgrades, if I upgrade this to +4 right now, all these are going to go away. And only this blacksmith can do some of these upgrade paths. So if you miss this, you'll never even know this is a thing. Like, if I already had a +4 longsword, which I easily could have, because you only need one large stone, hardstone, which you can get before this, and a lot of hardstone, you could easily already have a +4 longsword and miss all of this. Now, we're going to do a regular longsword, because why not? We won't even make a good one. We'll just do a regular longsword. See? Now all that stuff's already gone forever. So very easy to completely miss that there's other upgrade paths. And you can repair as well. So yeah, that's a spot where I really think Demon Souls didn't really think about this system very well. It's very unforgiving and very obscure, and not in the right ways.
Walls are transmogrified.
Okay.
All done? Let me go. I'll work alone.
And another thing that a player wouldn't know at this point is he can also make boss weapons if you have Flame Lurker Soul. Again, the problem with that is the boss weapons also have to be upgraded for a weapon at a very specific point. So if you've already upgraded the weapon past that, you also miss the opportunity to do that. And since you couldn't have killed Flame Lurker yet at this point in the game, very easy to miss that as well with no real warning that that's even a thing. So yeah, there's a lot of problems with that in my opinion. So Fogwall indicates, wow, why was I going to say syndicates? Indicates that we're getting further in the level. So it's a good thing there's a shortcut right there. So it segments the level nicely. And we'll continue. Main reason to kill the enemies is just because they're in a dangerous location, these narrow passageways. Yep, that is why. We'll roll, backstab. So we're doing a lot more damage now that we have upgraded our weapon quite a bit. 122 with that thrust instead of 95, so significant damage upgrade. And that's without any special upgrade. This is the basic upgrade path, which is not very good in this game. Like, this combo actually kills now. Like, I could have done the crushing path to be more, quote-unquote, optimal, but I kind of want to show the game from a very basic perspective for this kind of game design playthrough. I don't want to use more knowledge that a first-time player definitely wouldn't have as much as I can help it. So let's heal. An item over there. We don't need it, though. It's just I believe it's the Great Club, but it's important to note, this breaks if you try to go across this, but you can still make it. So it's I don't know, it's nothing really huge, not a big deal there. It's kind of a little thing. A gecko with a trap. The enemies are the trap. But the rocks can also kill the enemies. So here's the thing. A ton of enemies, and enemies throwing boulders. So this is a spot where a player should be able to do, so there's probably another way to go about this, and there is. Again, it's another really dangerous trap, but it's fair. It's a fair trap. Come over here. And there we go. And you can bypass that whole thing. Oh, but there's a secret item. The Steel Shield is a very powerful item. We'll probably use that later, because most players should be able to find that. It's not too well hidden, it's really strong. Shields in this game are probably way too good, honestly. That's another thing I criticize with this game. It's something they fixed with later games. The defensive mechanics in Demon Souls are really overpowered. For the most part. Yep, more dogs. Dogs have been our only weakness so far. Let's see if we can deal with them better this time. So we want to lure them up this ramp, but yep, pathing. You know, we'll just go down. You know what? Actually, we were talking about shields. Let's use a shield to make this easier. So yeah, shields are good. But also being able to kill the enemies in 2 hits instead of like 3 or 4 or 5 as it was before is a big help. So yeah, Having more damage can make the game drastically easier depending on the situation. So just a few upgrades, and there you go. So, continue. Continue down here. Now, quite a dangerous location. A lot of enemies, but remember at the end of 1-2, right before that very last section, they had a bunch of enemies? Similar thing. Be patient. Take it slow, and it's not that bad. And there's a consistent trend you'll see here, because this is also the end of this level, essentially. Because the last shortcut is right there. A player won't know that, but and neither would they have at 1-2, the last level we did. But the idea is the player will realize that after they overcome it, and they'll see that it's a very similar situation. And you'll start to teach players how the level design works, like how it's consistent. You just take it slow. More upgrade materials. And there we go. Sharp stone, hard stone, and there we go. Got the switch. Now, the really good thing about the shortcut is, one, it feels natural, it feels like a real thing, and it's also really well placed in the level. If you naturally just come back over here, you'll see the water, which tells you where the shortcut is. So even if you completely blanked on this before, again, well, I didn't really purposely note it before, because you'll see the water from the cutscene you just activated, which will lead you to this spot. And it's also connected, the placement is right connected to the other shortcut. So the two shortcuts work naturally together and make it a very seamless, well-done experience. You don't need a lot of shortcuts. You don't need them strung across their level. You just need them elegantly placed in one spot. And just like that, the level's now basically completed. And we're rewarded with more items, which is always good. And we can continue. And the game pulls one last little trick on us. But again, it's a trap that's been used before. If you're coming down here, you'll see all these barrels. It should already warn you of something, and then, oh. Again, it's not different from the firebomb. The firebomb traps from the first level, where the Bulletarian enemies would throw firebombs into the barrels. Pretty much the same idea. So the player should already be more than equipped to deal with this. Same idea, just a little bit different execution. And the camera, not the best right there. Full moon grass is really good. And there we go. Stone of Emperor Lies. So the next boss coming up is Armored Spider, which is consistent with the two bosses we fought already. It's very puzzly in nature. I would say more action-oriented than the last few bosses that you actually have to dodge attacks and your movement matters, but it's still very puzzle-based and it's has very set patterns. But again, it tips the scale into action a little bit more, a little less puzzly, a little more action, but still still largely designed by a puzzle. And, oh, an item. This isn't an item we want, but again, showing how the level design works. Again, trying to keep the player exploring, keep them paying attention. Okay, so, elevator. Have our items ready for the boss. I think half moon grass will be good enough. Now, this boss has the same weaknesses as everything else in the game. Thrusting and magic. So if we've learned our lesson, we'll know to use those attacks. Also, the Thief Ring does affect this boss. A lot of players probably wouldn't know that, but if you're keeping it on, it will make the boss easier. Like right here, he's not actually aware of my presence because of the Thief Ring. Take the Thief Ring off, and he'll start attacking me. And I got hit. And I'm going to get hit again while putting the Thief Ring back on. So yeah, Thief Ring helps. Yep. And with this webbing, we actually cannot roll. But with the thief ring on right here, he actually can't see me, so we can wait that out. So now as we approach, the thief ring lets us get closer. Got to roll through that attack. That's one of the first attacks in the game where you actually have to roll. Fireball. Melee swipe. We thrust. Melee swipe. Thrust. Missed. Ground pound. Get damage opening here. Big one. Melee swipe. Another ground pound. Melee swipe. My thrust attack keeps missing. So when he does this, the game gives a lot of warning that probably something dangerous is about to happen. Now, a lot of players probably died at it the first time, which is understandable, but again, it's totally avoidable. So this kind of resets, so you saw the pattern. The pattern's been reset. That forces the player to go through this section again, where again the thief ring helps. Roll through the web. Fireball. And now back to melee swipe. So ground pound, a little different. So you see there's a very clear pattern going on here. But again, the player actually does need to dodge a lot, react properly. So again, it's a little more balanced. But yeah, there's a very set pattern going on that the player can learn to their advantage, take to their advantage. Roll through. You can also block that, but it's a big stamina drain, so you don't get as much damage afterwards. Also, takes more time. So again, you can't just use a shield to make it, to simplify it, make it easier, if the action aspect is causing an issue. And there we go. Still very puzzly in design, but a little more action-oriented. Good boss. But yeah, there's many different ways to approach it. You can also use range attacks. Some people prefer to stay over here and snipe him and dodge his attacks in return. Some people try to use the wall to get his attacks to miss. It's a little gimmicky, but understandable. Yeah, it's an interesting boss. Well done. Okay, so we'll grab this, and we'll get out of here. Spider Stone is actually just 4 bows. Hard Demon Soul, and a Pure Spider Stone. So you're also rewarded with upgrade materials. And let's go back to the Nexus. So now we'll read the Archstone of that level. We actually forgot to do that. My apologies. And we'll read the boss souls that we've gotten. So the Archstone for that level says, City of the Brewers, keeper of the huge tunnels. Most of the stubborn excavators who support the soldiers of Voltaire had their souls taken. Lacking their own will, they mindlessly continue working. So it's important to know that they actually mention excavators. There's a little hint there about, you know, maybe there might be some things you want there. And then here, Archstone of the Demon Armored Spider, the Tunnel City. Below the smithing ground lies a huge tunnel worthy its name. It's said a dragon's grave is in the deepest part of the molten area. So there's a few warning signs in both these about what to discover there. Now let's read the boss souls we've gotten. Tower Knight. Grants the holder a large number of souls when used, altering made into spells, miracles, or weapons. So there's our first hint. Actually, Phalanx's Soul says that as well. I missed that. Sorry. So they do tell you, you know, there are special uses for these things. So there is a thing there where you're actually told. But again, there's not really any indication how, and it's really easy to miss that. Because they never actually mentioned Flame Lurker Soul yet, which the player would have no way of knowing. So let's upgrade our weapon.
I can
You can go to +5. And also we have the Steel Shield, which we'd like to use. So, if we check the shield, 18 strength. So another problem with the game is that those symbols don't really indicate what they actually are. There is a way to find out, though. Because they are shown here, and its effects, and it does tell you affects attack bonus. So you can see that the symbol means strength if you look at your stat screen. But most players are probably going to see this and have no idea what those symbols mean. So it's, again, not the best way to help the player ease into these RPG mechanics. I think in the future games they've done a much better job with that. But it's, you know, it is what it is, I guess. It's definitely a flaw, but it's something they learned later on as they made continued on. Definitely a thing that they improved upon. So we want 18 strength. So there we go, we have 18 strength. Now we can equip Steel Shield, which is going to make the game much easier. We'll deposit things we don't need. We have a lot of it. Again, don't forget the deposit. Another problem with Demon Souls that they definitely fixed is item weight. Not really necessary. Doesn't really do much to make the game any better. And we don't need that, or that, or that. Okay, so the only thing left to do is level up with the remaining souls we have. And let's just get some vitality. Okay. So I think that will do it for episode 2 of Demon Souls in Design. When we come back, maybe we'll do World 4. I guess we'll see. I'm not entirely sure. Oh wait, can I wave? Can I wave goodbye to the audience? Wait, sure, yeah, that works.